What's up, Internet? It's your guy, Tyler, and today we are back with another Super Squad D video. Today we're going to be looking at my top 5 favorite books that came out last year.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Now, I'm not talking about all those dumb books with just words in them. Who wants to read a book with just words? Not this guy. But I'm talking about comic books, and specifically Omnibus. Now, let me just say, these are just my favorite omnibus that I read last year. They're not books that necessarily came out last year, and they're certainly not new to last year, but they were the books that I read last year, and I just absolutely loved them.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Couldn't get enough of them. The order I'm going to put them in has absolutely nothing to do with the ranking of quality. It's in the order in which I read them in last year. So, kicking off this list, at number 5, we got The Sensational She-Hulk. This book was just amazing. I loved everything about it. I've never read a She-Hulk book, and in fact, I think if you had asked me to list my top 100 favorite characters of all time, She-Hulk would not have even broken the top 100. Like, that's how little I cared about her as a character. Somebody recommended the book to me, and I kind of bought it on a whim. Took it to the beach when we went last year on vacation. It was like the first time that we got out of the house in like 4 months. So just the trip was awesome. It was good to get away. And I read this book on the porch every morning of that beach trip and just absolutely freaking loved it. What made the book good? Well, one, the writing is hilarious. Truly some top-notch comedy. I love fourth wall breaking.
I know, right?
And this was Deadpool before Deadpool. Tons of fourth wall breaking, tons of hilarious jokes, tons of gags. Overall, an amazing book. The art, spectacular. Love John Byrne's art. I think he can do no wrong when it comes to art. Absolutely love the art. It's fun, it's funny, it fits the tone of the book. If you're looking for a lighthearted book to read that's going to be just enjoyable and fun and brighten your day, you gotta check this book out. So ultimately, every review, everything I look at and consume comes down to one thing. Was it compelling? And yes, it absolutely was compelling. When I put this book down, I could not wait to get back into it the next day. So number 5 on my list, Sensational She-Hulk by John Byrne. Now, number 4 on my list was shocking, but it's not because it's a character that I don't love, because I've always enjoyed this character, but interestingly enough, I've never really read much of this character as a solo series, and that character is Wonder Woman. Special effects galore. This Wonder Woman book by George Perez had everything I could possibly want. Now, let me start off by saying, I'm absolutely a sucker for any Greek mythology. I just think it's cool, I think it's fun, I've always been into it and enjoyed it, and that to me has been the most interesting aspect of Wonder Woman, her origins and how she interacts with the other Greek gods, and this book was the perfect place to start. In this book, Wonder Woman, it is basically Wonder Woman Year 1. Essentially, because it's right when she gets off of Themyscira, she's in the land of man for the first time, and it's so flippin' fun and cool. Wonder Woman's a great character. Now this book, I'll say, was written a while back, 20 or 30 years ago. I think it was in the 80s, and it is a little bit dated storytelling-wise, but I'm a guy who cannot stand really old comics.
How dare you?
That's probably blasphemous to say, but I just do not dig the Bronze Age or Silver Age, and certainly not the Golden Age books. But this book felt modern enough, and the writing was clean and crisp enough that it didn't feel that like hokey, dated writing. It really was good writing. There was a story in here that almost brought me to tears. It was so tragic and so beautiful that it will live with me forever. It really was one of those stories that you would just never forget. Now the art, top notch, big fan of the art. It looked great, it read great, and the interaction between all the Greek gods, them being such a major part of the storyline in relation to Diana and the other Amazons, I just thought it was phenomenal. Extremely compelling. Could not wait to read it more. 10 out of 10. Would read again. Now, the third book on my list totally blew me away because I didn't even know it existed until it came out in hardcover. And one of my friends recommended it to me, and I picked it up because I really like manga. I don't read all that much of it, but I enjoy it. So that book is Blade of the Immortal. Blade of the Immortal. Took a lot of energy to get that one out. Blade of the Immortal was a fantastic read. It was so surprising to me because I did not think I was going to love it as much as I did because I just had never heard anything about it. You know, I've been an anime and a manga fan a long time. I wouldn't consider myself an expert or even a hardcore fan by any stretch, but in general, I feel like I've heard of all of the big name mangas. At least I've been exposed to them, and I'd never even heard of this, but it was so interesting. So the premise is, it's this guy who's a samurai, but he's kind of, well, he's not the nicest guy, but he does have his own code of honor, and he finds that he has become immortal. And they explain how that happens, and he meets up with this girl who, her parents were killed and she's seeking revenge, and she hires him to be her bodyguard and to go out and get revenge on the people who killed her parents. And it's super good. You know, I don't like super dark and graphic books. I'm not a fan of just extreme gore and violence, so that's why I haven't picked up Berserk. But this really, I felt like, did not overindulge in the violence and overindulge in just the overall graphicness that some of these mangas can get into. And so I found it super enjoyable. The story was very compelling. The artwork was gorgeous, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, well.
And the story just really hooked me from the beginning, and I can't wait to read the next volume when it comes out. So if you're looking for a cool samurai style manga and you don't know what to read, maybe you've been playing Ghost of Tsushima or something like that, like, go ahead, jump on this book. You won't be disappointed, especially because, look, it comes with a ribbon. A flippin' ribbon! That's nutty! So good! It's just so good, I'm telling you. Number 4 on my list, I had been looking forward to since the day that the original first issue came out. And that's a book called X-Men Grand Design. X-Men Grand Design by Ed Piskor. I have to look at it, Piskor. I'm honestly not sure how to say it. But X-Men Grand Design was, dare I say, the most needed book for the X-Men franchise of all time. And I'm not exaggerating, because if you are an X-Men fan at all, you know that X-Men has one of the most convoluted, messed up continuities of all time. When people start talking about, tell me about the history of the X-Men, you're like, well, how much time you freaking got, man? Because this history of the X-Men is just nutty. And what Ed does in this book so masterfully is he goes back and paints a beautiful picture of how the entire X-Men story, from the beginning all the way through the Dark Phoenix saga, is all woven together. And he takes some liberties because he fills in some gaps that were not in the original run. And he connects some things that weren't originally connected. But let me tell you, I don't think that those parts are necessarily canon, but they're canon to me. Absolutely. Because this really just unifies that X-Men history in such a smooth and fluid way that is amazing. On top of that, the artwork is so perfect because he actually goes back and imitates the art and the panel style of the X-Men comics from the era that it came out in. Not only in costume design for the characters, but the actual pages of this omnibus are actually made to feel older, so that it really has that vintage feel. Incredible design, an incredible book. I was so thrilled to get to read it. I could not put it down. Absolutely deserves a spot on my top books read in 2020. Now, the last book probably won't come as a surprise for you, because this last book absolutely is a spoiler right here. It's The Winter of Star Wars. And I picked this book up at the very end of 2020. I jumped in with not much expectations, loved the writer, but had no expectations of it, and boy, did it blow me away. This is Star Wars by Jason Aaron.
Hello there.
Now, I am a long-term Star Wars fan. I remember when I was a kid, I got the old VHS gold box set of the original trilogy. Buddy, I rewound those things so many times because I loved watching those movies. Hashtag Return of the Jedi is the best. Everybody knows it. But I loved the Star Wars franchise. The prequels obviously were a huge deal when I was a kid when they came out. And you know, obviously the resurgence of the popularity of the prequels is hilarious to me, and I think that's largely in part due to the Clone Wars cartoon show, which is amazing and absolutely makes the prequel era my favorite era in Star Wars of all time. But this book takes place in that original trilogy and fills in the major gaps between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And you may be thinking, well, how much time actually took place in between those two things? Let me tell you a lot. A lot of time took place in between those two movies, and this book so masterfully paints just a much fuller and vivid picture of those original Star Wars characters that we love. Han Solo, Luke Skywalker. It's right after they blow up the Death Star, and there's some intertwining stuff with Vader, which he has his own omnibus that almost made this list, but not quite, because my love for Star Wars, while I do love Vader, totally revolves around Luke Skywalker and the good guys. No! And this book did not disappoint. It introduced so many characters that I want to see in live action. Please, Dave Filoni. Please, Jon Favreau. Bring them back for The Mandalorian. You can do it. You can do it. Please. So, this book rounded out my year and my top 5 favorite reads. Guys, that's it for my top 5 favorite reads in 2020. I would love to know what your 5 favorite books were. What did you read last year that you loved? Last year was a hard year for everybody, and there was one thing that I could count on to get me through that year.
Pizza time.
And that was Goodreads. So guys, thanks a ton for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. Leave a comment, ring that notification bell, do whatever it is you're supposed to do on YouTube, and I'll see you next time on Super Squad D, where the D stands for... Don't worry, we're going to have another top 5 list at the end of 2021. Peace.